Finish up this afternoon, we're going to have some case studies by tribes working with partners. And our first case study is going to be presented by Mr. Bobby Brunoe. Bobby is the Natural Resource General Manager for our THPO for the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. So if we can, let's give Bobby a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Bobby Brunoe, General Manager of Natural Resources for the Confederate Tribes of Warm Springs. I'm also the Tribal Historic Preservations for the tribes and I've been a natural and the General Manager since '98. I've been working for the tribes since 1991. Started with the tribes as the Range and Agriculture Manager and moved from there into Hydro Relicensing Coordinator. And so working on projects with FERC relicensing was primarily the tribes worked on. The Pelton project was a project that we worked on. And from that position, then I moved into the General Manager as I am here today. A little bit about myself. I grew up in a logging family, a ranching family, so I started setting chokers when I was about 9 years old. So I've said a lot of those things over the years. So that's what my family has done and still does to this day. We have a logging company. My brother manages a logging company. Father passed away about 3 years ago, and so that's still moving forward with it. So a little bit about me, and I've served on numerous boards over the years. Currently serve on the Deschutes River Conservancy board in Deschutes. So there's a whole group of folks from irrigators, local communities, counties, of course Warm Springs, and also some NGOs. What I'm going to talk about is the project that we attempted to do, Tribal Forest Protection Act project. And I'm feeling a little bad because it's kind of a story that didn't go quite well. But I also want to talk about, this is about collaboration, and there are projects that the tribes have done and that we've worked on over the years with the Forest Service and the BLM, and I'll just give you some of those examples. And one is, and some folks might be familiar with these, is the Blaze Meadow project with Deschutes National Forest was a successful project that we worked on. Huckleberry prescriptions on Mount Hood National Forest, where we went in and did a project with them and did some prescribed fire, did some thinning for just specifically for huckleberries. Also, we've done on the Mount Hood fish habitat work with them. Also in the John Day Basin on John Day River with Mount here and the Umatilla National Forest, we've done fish habitat work there with them. So just some examples of some good projects that we've done over time in a collaborative effort. Well, I do a TFPA. On this one is because we were having large fire events on the boundaries of our reservation. We had concerns with our water, our fisheries, our wildlife, our cultural plants, and somebody described during one of the sessions about natural resources and natural resource management, and that natural resources to tribes, for all of us, are cultural things, and they're very important to us. So we want to protect these things and look out for future generations. Also, we're having tribal assets that were being burned, primarily our timber, and a lot of these fires were rolling onto the reservation. And also in this project, there was an opportunity to look at biomass. At the time, we were looking at developing a biomass project, and going to work with Forest Service on that, and we did. Having the TFPA bill in place was something that helped us move this forward. We also have a memorandum of understanding in place with the Forest Service and the BLM on coordination with each other, how we meet with each other. In the MOU, it talks about we will try and meet quarterly and have discussions about what's happening on their forests. This particular MOU is one with 7 different forests. The 7 different forests being Mount Hood National Forest, Deschutes National Forest, Umatilla National Forest, Malheur National Forest, Willamette National Forest, Ochoco National Forest, and Wallowa Woodman. So these are groups that are all under this MOU. Also, Pineville BLM district is part of this memorandum of understanding. So this is something that helps us coordinate with them and have a dialogue and discussion with them. We also had a separate memorandum of understanding that tiered into this umbrella MOU that we had in place to look at biomass and what we can do for stewardship contracts into the future. So there's another component there that was layered into this project. Here's some more reasons why we needed to go into a project on our boundaries. As you can see here, this little history of some of the fires we had before 2006. We had the Olali Complex fire, over 2,000 acres there. It was a shared fire with the Forest Service. 2001, that same year, we had on reservation the Bald-Peter fire, 1,600 acres. In 1996, we had the Jefferson 1 and Jefferson 2 fire, over 4,000 acres, and it's a fire that we shared on our boundaries with the Forest Service. And in 2006, we had the Cascade Rim fires, 14,000 acres that we shared with the Forest Service. So there were some real good reasons to share. Jim, is there a laser pointing at the red? So here's a map of our reservation. The reservation is 640,000 acres proper. It is the forested lands is approximately 444,000 acres, and it runs. Here's the boundary for the forest. So all this area right here is all our forest lands. The remainder being in rangelands, and that's forest lands up in here. As you can see, we've had some large fires. This fire in particular here, these two colors here all go together really, and that was in one fire event in '96. That was a 118,000 acre fire that we had, which burned timber and rangelands, and we did lose some structures, actually homes, during that fire. As you get over to the west boundary here, the southern and west, we have the Deschutes National Forest on the south end of us here. We have the Willamette, a piece of that right in there. The rest of all of this right here is all the Mount Hood National Forest that is adjacent to us. We tend to have fires that move from the west to the east. So when there is a fire on them, it usually rolls on to us. Not to say we haven't shared our fires with them also. Down here is one that we call the Irony that rolled over. So we did a little sharing one year with them. They were very happy. So this is some of the reasons we're looking at some of the needs and why we need to do some project with them. This next slide is another example of why we need to do some work. There's been a lot of discussion about climate change today and through the whole session. And here is a result of the effects of climate change is bug infestations. And so here we're looking north, I believe, and this is about 30,000 acres of bug infestation, and so we have dead dying trees, and we're to this day still dealing with the effects of this. In the project, we worked with Warm Springs staff, Bureau of Indian Affairs staff, and Mount Hood staff. They work very well together. In fact, we have one of the folks who's here, Ken Orchard, was part of that team when we were working on that. And if you wanted technical information about this project, Ken will remember it, I'm sure. And so there were some objectives that we had and Forest Service had, and as you can see that former slide of the bug infestation, you know, the Forest Service was having, it was on both sides of the boundary. The name of the project was the Cascade Crest Forest Health Improvement, and it was 1,000 acres on the Mount Hood National Forest. And so as you're looking at this straight line right here is the boundary of the reservation. So the west of it is the Mount Hood National Forest, and this boundary here is the 1,000-acre project that the Forest Service had following roads. One of their concerns was also with public safety. Down here, this right here is a Lolly Butte, and down in here we have Old Lolly Lake, which is a high recreational area for the Forest Service. They have a lot of folks in there, and there was some real safety concerns because there's one road in, one way out. And so they were really concerned about if they have fire event, what are they going to do, how they can get these people out. We need to put some type of buffer in there and take down some of these dead trees. So that was their side of the boundary. The tribe side of the boundary was all of this here. This is 22,000 acres of lands that, as you can see in the picture, was part of that bug infestation, and we need to do some work on our side also. A little bit about our side. Were we able to do all that work that same year or the last couple of years to get that done? No, we did not get that done. One of the reasons is funding. We were lacking funding to be able to get all that work. Today, we are still doing work up in this area and treating it. Some of the challenges that we've had with this project was working with NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Other was Forest Service with wilderness areas that abut us, and those have been real challenging. Funding for the projects, and unfortunately we never did get this project off the ground and going. Main reason being working with the NGOs. It was interesting going through that process, working with one, in particularly one group, and that group had they were kind of broke up into districts. They had a west side that had a lead person for the west side, this NGO, and then they also had a lead person for the east side. But since this project was right on the crest of the Cascades, we were dealing with a person from the east, or the west side, which they lived in Portland, they were based in Portland, never really done anything on the east side. They were afraid that we were going to cut old growth, and that was the main reason we were doing the project, was to cut it. It wasn't the intent at all. It was going to cut the dead trees that were in the area and get them down in the ground. We weren't even looking at anything that was dying. It was just dead. They were afraid that we're going to cut it and they didn't like the design of the project and where the buffer was going to be. So one of the questions we had to them is like, okay, if you don't like it, then what kind of design would you put into place? And so we had some dialogue with them, and it just, the buffer zones that they put in just really didn't work. What was really surprising to us that their main premise was we're going to cut old growth, but some of their buffer zones actually went right through some old growth. And we said we just can't do that. So we had a person on the east side that we've been working with over the years from that organization that we've had a real good relationship with, and it worked well with him over the years. So we asked him, hey, can you come help us? He was a person that helped us on the Glazed Meadows project and participated, helped with, and we actually took timber off of that project, and he was a real advocate in helping that project. So, hey, give us a hand here. Can you talk to your counterpart on the west side and kind of help guide him about what we're really trying to do here so he can understand what this project is all about? Well, they talked, and we had dozens of meetings with them. We could never, he became as frustrated as we were. He said, I can't get my counterpart to turn. This thing was starting to head down the road of appeals and litigation. And this was the tribe's very first project that we're just getting out and starting with. So we were not feeling very comfortable with going down that road and having that type of situation. Getting ahead of myself here. Situation. So we bailed out. So we're not gonna do the project. Forest Service, they had some hazard trees that they were going to take care of and go ahead and deal with. They understood why we didn't want to do the project, even though we had a really good working relationship with Forest Service on that. So that's the story of our failed attempt at TFPA with the Cascade Crest project. Some of the things that we learned from that and what can we do better and what can we do in the future if we want to go into another TFPA project was we need to do some more homework and some more education with the NGOs and get them to understand a lot sooner before we start a project of why we're doing the things that we're doing. So we've been doing some of that and trying to work with some of them and getting them to understand. The other concern is wilderness. We have wilderness on the south end of the reservation with the Mount Hood, with the Deschutes National Forest. We have wilderness with the Willamette National Forest, and we have wilderness with the Mount Hood National Forest. And every fire year, and last year was one of those years that we had fire, of the fire rolling off the wilderness and rolling onto reservation lands and burning our assets and our natural resources that are important to us. So we're trying to figure out what do we do? How do we deal with that? One of the ideas that I threw at a few years ago to the Forest Service is perhaps working within the existing framework of TFPA and in the bill, is we do the project on the reservation, on our side, and use their resources and their funding to do those projects. And they said, well, we'll think about it. They're not quite sure whether they can really do that or not. But I said it's something I think we should seriously consider because those wilderness areas are going to continue doing that to us. And we need to figure out a way to deal with it. And I'm sure there's other tribes that are in that same situation that have wilderness against their boundaries. And those wilderness areas for Warm Springs are all west of us. So whenever they get a fire, they roll onto us. And it's been a constant challenge ever since I've worked for the tribes for the last 20 plus years of having fires rolling onto us and working with them. So just some thoughts about how we think we can move forward with some future things with TFPA. I know there is a bill out there right now that they're, you heard Mark Phillips and Matt Hill this morning talk about what's happening with those bills. Somehow we need to be able to get some type of language in there that says, yeah, we can do a project on tribal lands for TFPA using those dollars and those funding for tribes. So that's what I have for TFPA, and thank you very much.